Hello and welcome to the Crimson Stitchery, a video channel about making all things that are beautiful and useful. My name is Anushka and you can find me elsewhere online as Asawatelling, that's Asawatelling, and that is my username on Instagram and over on Ravelry, where we also have a Ravelry group for the podcast, which is currently hosting various different chatter threads, knit-alongs and threads for advice, and just generally is a lovely place to meet some new knitty and crafty friends. So do pop over there, have a look and join it if you haven't done so already. So hello, I'm really glad to be recording this episode, the September episode for you guys now. It's been a couple of weeks. As I announced in the last episode, I think it was 15, I decided to take a couple of weeks off YouTube in order to just enjoy the very end, the tail end of the summer, and also get some work done. For those of you that are new to the channel, I am a PhD student and I just had to have some time to buckle down and work on my thesis, and I'm so happy to report that actually that was just what I needed. I had a really productive couple of weeks and I'm doing really well at doing research. So yes, that was really fantastic, and thank you so much for your well wishes, your ongoing well wishes, and the comments that you guys have been leaving during my break. It's much appreciated and so sweet to know that you have been thinking of me. Just a quick announcement to remind you to subscribe to my newsletter, Postcards from the Crimson Stitchery, if you haven't done so already. It's a regular monthly newsletter that I send out at the beginning of every month with photographs, writing, recommendations, favourites, and also if I'm running a knit-along or initiative, then I'll feature some reader knits within it as well. So my newsletter is just another way to connect with me, especially if you enjoy the kind of things that I talk about in the podcast, the kind of ponderous thoughts that I have, and if you just want a little cheerful little update in your inbox at the beginning of every month, there's a link in the down box here on YouTube below. Okay, let's get straight to it and talk about what's in my knitting basket and also what is on me, because I am wearing a finished object. This is my Magnolia sweater that I've been knitting on for the last couple of months, and yeah, it's finished. I briefly displayed this on the last podcast episode, but I didn't want to talk about it in depth because I had it on my to-do list that I needed to wash out the oil that was in the yarn, because I knitted this using Holst Super Soft, which is a yarn which comes from the manufacturer still containing spinning oil. So I had to wash that out, and it was on my to-do list that whilst I was doing that I needed to film another video. So if you haven't already watched, I have made a two-part tutorial slash demonstration slash walkthrough about knitting and washing Holst Super Soft yarn. And it applies to any other Holst products as well as any other yarns that you might have purchased on the cone, maybe from a more industrial, maybe wholesale supplier that still contains spinning oil, as opposed to being, wound up already and being sold for commercial craft, individual purposes. We're talking about like more mass scale yarns when you, the consumer, need to do a little bit more work yourself. So do head over and watch those videos too, and do hang on and wait till the end of the month as I am working on the cut of the third part of the Knitting with Holst Super Soft video. But anyway, all of that to say is I finished the Magnolia sweater. This is a design by Kim Lovin from a back issue of Len magazine and also available separately. And yeah, I knit it using a different gauge to the pattern, a different yarn, just kind of made it work. I couldn't afford to use silk mohair held with something lovely and out of my price range, so I used Holst Super Soft, which meant that the thing, the jumper, it costs me less than £10, I would say. Super great option. So if I hop up for you now, you can see that it's got really fantastic stitch definition on the flowers here. And on the sleeve, and it's just really, really light. It's a little bit, I feel a little bit like I'm going back to school, but I am a student and a teacher, so that kind of makes sense. I'm not sure what it is, something about it kind of being quite fitted and plain in the upper half makes it feel a little bit like a school jumper, but I am really, really happy with it. And yeah, it's super light, it's pretty warm, but something about having the lace in the hem and so on means that I'm not overheating wearing it, and the last couple of days have really, really dipped down in the temperature too here in London, UK, where I'm from, where I'm based. So yeah, it's been really nice to be able to just pull this on for the last couple of days. It's been the right weather for it, and it's the kind of knitwear that once it's on you don't really notice it. You can just get on with life, which I really like. The only thing is, like, maybe the collar is a little bit high, you know, it's a little bit ticklish there, but if I wear a blouse with a collar, then I'm not going to notice that so much. But yeah, I mean, I notice the neckband, but once the jumper's on, I can just crack on with it, which is really nice, because you know, sometimes you have knitwear that kind of falls off shoulders, or it pulls at necks, or it pulls at armpits or wrists, and you just kind of notice the clothing. But with this one, once it's on, I can just, you know, I'm very mobile. It doesn't catch on anything, you know, the sleeves are quite tight, so yeah. I'm just trying to think, did I make any modifications to the pattern? Obviously, because my gauge was different, I had to fudge around with the numbers, which, if you're a regular viewer, you'll know is a regular theme of mine. Just fudge around with that because, yeah, put it this way, I can really afford to knit with recommended yarn. Full stop, that's me. What else did I do? Added in a little bit of extra shaping, I think. Definitely in the cuffs. I can't remember if I did it in the body. Looking at it, it doesn't look like I have. And you know, it's not the most flattering of garments. It's not wasted at all. But I'm still enjoying wearing it. And I guess I could possibly tuck it in, although that would lose the effect of the lace around the hips. So anyway, main thing is that I am super happy with this jumper. And yeah, I'm being very, very crimson today with my Schiaparelli pink trousers and then this Venetian red, kind of blood red jumper on top of it. Yeah, so that's that. The whip along, the Crimson Whip Along, hashtag Crimson Whip Along, is still going strong. It's been so wonderful to see everybody's interaction, predominantly on Ravelry, where we have a very active chat thread. I love checking in every morning when I'm having a cup of tea and just seeing what people are up to. Everyone is so encouraging of each other. People are also a little bit encouraging of each other to keep casting things on, which makes me laugh. But the aim of the Crimson Whip Along is that it's very low key. Anyone can join in at any point. All you have to do to enter is go along to the thread in the Ravelry group, link below, and basically write a list of all your current whips, you know, works in progress. It can be any craft, it can be all crafts, it can be a particular craft, it's up to you. And then you just have to commit to halving the list. So if you've got 10 whips, you know, get 5 of them done. If you then cast on another 5, that means that you have 15 whips, so then you need to get a few more done. Yeah, I'm still working out details for prizes for the knit along. I am in conversations with a few different people, but this is really a community spirit, you know, community engagement kind of project, and you guys have been so responsive to that already, so that's been so wonderful. But if anyone would like to donate a prize, whether it's, you know, something that you already own that you'd like to pass on to someone, maybe you're having a de-stash and you find something lovely that you think someone else might have a better use for, or if you'd like to do a pay it forward kind of thing. I've had people get in touch about, you know, buying patterns as gifts for other knitters. Lots of ideas going around at the moment, and I haven't firmed up on anything yet, so please do get in touch if you have any ideas or if you'd like to collaborate on the knit along, or make along rather, in any way. Just let me know. So Crimson Whip Along. This jumper was on the list for sewing in ends and making the video tutorial about it, which I've nearly finished. I also have this green crochet flannel, which all I had to do was crochet the border and add a hanging loop. So I did that and I started using it. Yeah, that's that really. Haven't blocked it, it's a little bit lumpy because it's just gone straight into circulation. So another finished project, a tiny one there. I also finished the hat for my grandma, and I'll pop the picture in on screen, a little bit of a rough picture. But this is a chestnut brown tweed hat with a pom-pom that she requested to have a doubled over ribbed brim, so I did that. And the exciting thing about this hat was that I knit it holding a strand of reflective thread, so when there is any kind of light or, you know, torch or beam of light that shines upon the hat, it lights up like no one's business and glows in the dark. So this is just a really little fun feature, but also for safety, because she likes to go out with her friends in the evening, and she's in her 70s, so it's quite good that if she's ever walking home from the station in the dark on her own, she will have a glow in the dark head. You know, just something else to mark her out, so that, you know, there's no danger of like passing vehicles and things like that. Yeah, feel like maybe we sound like scaremongering or something, but it's just, you know, another way to be visible in the winter when like a lot of coats and shoes and stuff, you know, clothing is often very dark and very black and black in colour, and yeah, if you're driving, you know, and it's dark and then you kind of have these like black figures, it's just really handy when people are walking around and you can see them, so that, you know, there's never any element of danger there. So that crazy hat was for her. I gave it to her for her birthday, fitted her perfectly, she absolutely loved it and was so happy with it, and everybody thought it was so hilarious that it's a light up granny, my light up granny. So yeah, got that one done too. Okay, so that's 3 projects off my list that are pretty much crossed off. And I did cast on something new, so as much as I'm chastising people for not casting on anything new, I did do it myself. But I kind of knew that I was going to do this as I was going into the whip along to begin with, if you get me. So what I've cast on is this fabulous tangerine orange linen silk and cotton yarn, which is a Rosarios Portuguese yarn. And it's the same yarn that I used to knit this charcoal grey t-shirt that I wore a few episodes ago. And I decided that I wanted to have a summer cardigan because that's something that I have a gap in my wardrobe for. So even though it's now autumn, I decided that I needed to crack on with this cardigan. And I am doing an adaptation of this pattern, which is on the back cover of a back issue of Pom Pom Quarterly magazine, Pom Pom 6, which I also am in. So this is my contributor copy. So a couple of years ago I went through my patterns, you know, library, my magazines, knitting books and so on and so forth, and I marked out all of the patterns that I liked but I hadn't knit, and the whole point was that I wanted to try and work through these patterns in my library before I allowed myself to buy any new ones. And by and large that decision has worked. It's kind of like stash busting, except for knitting patterns instead. I have bought the odd book, but on the whole it's you know, really helped me with my budget. I would love to, you know, purchase and knit all of the latest knitting magazines, like all of them, Pom Pom, Lane, Making Magazine, Brooklyn Tweed. There's so many beautiful patterns that are coming out all the time, but I just can't afford to do that. So for me it's part of like, not quite minimalism, but just knowing what you have and knowing what your limits are, I think is the best way of putting it. So this is a long form cardigan which just has a lace panel on the upper yoke, and you saw the lace in the close-up there. So it's knit as a bottom up yoke raglan kind of thing. The main alteration I'm making is that it is crew neck, and I'm going to be turning it into a v-neck so it's a bit more comfortable to wear for the summer. So I have steamrolled ahead on one sleeve. I've got the body here, and again I made some alterations because I added in a bit of waist shaping, the v-neck. Oh, and look, I've added in pockets here because it's going to be a long line cardigan, and it's really nice when you've got a long cardigan which has got pockets, in my opinion. Just for those little summer essentials for next year. So yeah, this one is nearly at the yoke, and I've cast on the second sleeve, and I've got piles of yarn here that I've been winding up by hand because it's sold in hanks, which is kind of annoying for me because I prefer it just to be able to get the yarn and knit with it. But I have filmed a tutorial video for you guys about how to wind up yarn using no equipment, because that is my situation. I don't have a ball winder in Swift, something that I would, you know, I'd like to change in the future. But if you're a beginner knitter, or you live in a small space like me, or you have a small budget like me, buying extra equipment is often just not an option. I would say actually, especially for a beginner, if you're just getting into it, think, you know, the cost of the hobby can be very expensive, can be really a lot when you first start. And what's been really lovely about the Ravelry group and also Crimson Stitchery, you know, hashtag on Instagram, and looking at reader knits and just communicating more with you guys, the community of the Crimson Stitchery online. What's been so lovely about that is hearing about your experiences and your skill levels and the way that you guys came to knitting. And I love the fact that you guys tell me that all the time, you know, it gets dropped in as anecdotes here and there. And I realised that at the beginning I had a lot of really experienced knitters, people like me who'd been knitting for a long time and who could knit, you know, anything, who had the capacity to knit anything. But as I've continued and making more videos, I've had more and more newbie knitters drop in, and I've had people that have been knitting for 6 months but who are, you know, inspired by all of the different things, even though they don't feel confident yet maybe in making like lace garments and shawls and so on themselves. And it's been so great to hear about like your skill levels and what you're interested in too, and I hope that I can continue developing content that is of interest both to long-term and experienced knitters like myself, as well as people who are more beginners. So that's super great. So thank you for staying in touch with me. So that is what I have been knitting on. Let's go to mending stories next and have a little bit of mending to show you, which is slightly different from normal in that it is not knitting or sewing based, but it's to do with shoes. So this is a pretty simple mend. My shoes were talking, as they say. The upper has become unglued from the sole on this slipper, which belongs to my partner, and this summer shoe, which belongs to me, sort of a brogue kind of style with some perforations, bought them in Hong Kong. Both of these are probably on their way out. The slipper definitely needs a relining on the sole because the fluffy sheepskin has worn away to the leather pelt actually all the way inside. So I could glue like a sheepskin insole into it in the future. I could knit one as well, it's a possibility. But in order to fix the talking flapping soles, I just opened it up a little bit more, and then I took some contact adhesive or Evo stick. It's basically a really strong solvent based glue, the kind that makes you go and lightheaded. Put loads of it on, spread it out using an old piece of cardboard, and then what you have to do is you have to clamp the shoe shut. So you can either use a set of clamps, you know, that you'd use for household tools. You can use the lighter weight plastic ones is what I'd recommend, where you just press the button and the clamp shuts in. I'll put a link to an example down below so that anyone can check them out if you need to. I think that the plastic ones are a bit better than the old-fashioned ones that are like a vice with a screw, because those are a bit too heavy duty. For a shoe, you just need something to hold it in place, but you don't need, you know, you need a bit of pressure, but not so much like what the metal clamps would put on. I think that that's like a next level thing just for a shoe. You know, it needs to be strong, but you don't want to press too hard because it might leave an indentation in the leather. So yeah, put the contact adhesive glue, the solvent based one, really important. You know, don't go for the kid friendly washable like Yoo-hoo kind of stuff. You need the chemicals. And then you need to clamp it shut. But my hot tip, if you don't have a clamp to hand, what you can also do is you can take like a table leg for your dining room table, or like a bedside table even, something heavy, a table leg, and you put the table leg in the shoe. Or if I demonstrate on this, you put the table leg going down into the shoe, and then you can just walk away and leave it. And then the good thing about that is that the shoe's on the floor, so it will stay, you know, flat and stable, and the leg is just there pressing it down. You can just leave it there overnight. Is a good one, or for a couple of days, as long as you can really, just to make sure that the glue has stuck. Come back, shoes are good as new. I think that shoes these days are something that people are in the habit of getting mended by taking them to a cobbler, to a professional, which is really brilliant. But sometimes it gets to the point where the cost of replacing a sole, I've been quoted anything from £25 to £50 to replace a sole on a leather shoe. I think it's when it's the whole sole rather than just the heel tip. And that is really expensive, especially when you could buy a new one. I guess it depends how much you've invested in the shoe. You know, if it's an expensive pair of boots that have cost you several £100s, probably it's worth it, but I don't spend £500 on boots. So it's something really you have to weigh up. I always get heel tips replaced at least once or twice if I like the shoe. I think that that's better than buying new shoes. Not just because of the cost of the new shoes, but also because of the breaking in experience. That's very difficult for me. I find it really difficult to find shoes that fit my feet. It's slightly traumatic if I'm honest with you. So mending's definitely a way forward. And just to continue what we were talking about, community, thank you so much for everybody who's left a comment or posted in the Ravelry group or tagged me on Instagram and told me that you've started mending things because of this podcast. How amazing! I love the fact that you're having your own mending stories as well, and the fact that you guys are sharing them, celebrating them. That's really fantastic. I've been mending clothing for absolutely ages, as long as I've been wearing clothing, let's say, or as long as I've been, you know, sewing at least. And it took the internet, you know, the kind of visible mending movements online for me to start sharing what was already a normal part of what I did. Because I was already sharing, like, you know, finished projects of sewing and knitting and so on. But it took me a long time to see mending as a craft, you know, a viable practice in its own right. I'm so glad that now you guys are so receptive and responsive to mending stories. So that is fabulous, and please continue tagging me in all of your mending and all of your projects online that you'd love me to see. You can use hashtag the Crimson Stitchery and it will pop up on my feed. That's pretty much all of the projects that I've been working on recently. As I said, I've been working really hard at my day job, which is being a research student. I've also just been trying to get my life in gear. I've had to do loads of work in my garden. I mentioned in my garden vlog from a couple of months ago that we had to do some work, so we started doing that, which has been extremely time consuming, for want of a better phrase to describe it. So let's move into conversational threads, and as we do that, I will just give you a little bit of an update first about the Crimson Stitchery, and then I will go on to chat about what I want to talk about in conversational threads. So yes, I've been quite preoccupied with real life stuff, but I really love running the Crimson Stitchery, and as you guys know, it's so valuable to have all of these conversations with you. But with the various demands in daily life, that means that I'm not having quite so much time to do crafting. So instead, I've been spending quite a lot of time working on tutorials and demonstrations for you guys. So I think that for the next month or so, definitely going into October, I'll probably podcast only once a month instead of my regular twice a month, just because I'm not going to have very much to show you. But I'm working on other kinds of content for you guys. So next week, instead of a full podcast episode, I've got a chat about my thoughts about haul videos and stash. Bit of an incendiary topic, but regular viewers, you know me, I like to take things easy, and also I try not to take myself too seriously, so I hope that you guys can just, you know, join in with the theme of that and know that each to their own is pretty much how I live my life, you know, to each his own, live and let live. So yeah, that's a little chat for you guys for that one. And then after that, I've got some demonstrations coming up, the winding yarn with no equipment demo that I've already talked about, and then the Holst super soft video. So yeah, and then that will probably take us almost into October. So do remember to sign up for the Crimson Stitchery newsletter so that you don't miss any updates. Now in conversational threads, I want to talk about sizing. This is something that has gone in and out of various different online conversations in crafting communities over the last couple of months, and I did actually have my say when I had a little feature on my friend Ellie Skeindier's video channel. And I'll put a link to that down below when I made a guest appearance, because I was at her house. So yeah, I put myself in Skeindier knits. And I know that quite a few of you guys have found my video channel through that video, so that's really lovely, and hello Skeindier referees. So yeah, I wanted to talk about sizing, and I'm not going to go into too much depth, but I'm just going to start this conversational threads with an anecdote, which is that I've needed to buy a new pair of trousers for more than 6 months. We're now in September. I remember shopping in April with my friend trying to find some trousers and I couldn't. And the reason for that is because I put on weight. Put on weight around my waist. I'm not 21 anymore, or 18 or 16, none of those ages, and my clothes are stopping fitting me because I'm developing more of a quote-unquote womanly figure, which is fine. Weight fluctuates, I realise this now. It was just very surprising to me because my weight was literally the same for more than 10 years. It fluctuated by like 1 kilogram. I'm, you know, less than half a stone in 10 years, up and down, and then suddenly it just rose and it didn't change. I guess, you know, as you get into your late 20s, your metabolism's slowing down. It's natural. And I, you know, was doing like looking at my diet and my exercise routine and and of course I could do more exercise. We could all do more exercise, right? That's never, you know, quantified. But I needed some new trousers because my trousers weren't fitting me anymore. And a lot of the trousers that I'd had were ones that I'd made myself. And I didn't have time to sew trousers for myself. I've got way too much on my plate. And yeah, just don't do very much dressmaking at the present. So I was going in and out of vintage shops, trying on lots of things. Couldn't get anything that fit. Shopping for trousers in vintage shops. I was really trying to buy secondhand, but it wasn't happening. I couldn't find anything, and I really tried, believe me. And then at the weekend, I just thought enough is enough. I need to buy some trousers first hand because otherwise I've got no trousers. So I went shopping with my partner and purchased some trousers from a shop, high street shop, which has got good credentials, good like sustainability credentials. They use a lot of organic fabrics, they use recycled fabrics, even though it's mass produced. So I felt quite comfortable buying first hand from them. Also got a student discount. Hot tip, if you're on a budget, try and find a student to go shopping with, because a lot of high street shops offer a 10% student discount and often they don't advertise it. You have to ask. So I had to ask, and you don't just have to present your student card, you also have to download an app sometimes and get it verified. I don't know, but yeah, it's worth making an inquiry about for people that are on a budget and have access to some kind of student around them. Anyway, I digress. So I went shopping with my partner, who was like surprisingly very good to go shopping with. And I loathe shopping, as a side note. I really don't find it an enjoyable activity at all. It's not something I find relaxing or recreational. So anyway, I went with him and tried on a bunch of trousers, and I kind of started off feeling really demoralised because I was like pulling on these trousers and they weren't fitting, and I was going up a size and they still weren't fitting, and I was like, oh, I don't want to go up 2 sizes, and maybe it's the cut, I'll go to a different shop, try on some other trousers. And I hit upon these amazing Schiaparelli pink corduroy trousers, and I tried them on in my normal size and I thought, oh yeah, they look quite good, but I couldn't eat a roast dinner in them. They look quite good, but I kind of can't really breathe. So I went up a size. And then, so these are kind of autumnal trousers, and I also wanted a pair of summer trousers, even though it's not the summer anymore, just to have a kind of warm weather one and a cool weather one. And then that would be my wardrobe sorted for like the next 2 years. So then I pulled out this other pair of trousers, linen trousers, in my old size, and they were way too big. So I had to go down a size. So basically from the same shop, I purchased a pair of trousers in a size UK 12, which is like a US 8, EUR 40, I think, no, 38. And then I purchased a pair of trousers in a size UK 8, which is a US 4, and an EUR 34. So yeah, you know, the size difference, it wasn't just that I had to go up or I had to go down. Like, actually there were 2 sizes different for the same item, a pair of trousers in a different cut, but trousers in the same shop. Like, my size went from essentially like extra small to medium, which is totally bizarre. But I knew that the problem was the cut. like the pattern cutting and not my body. So it was no biggie to me to say, I want to eat a really good meal while I'm wearing trousers in the winter. Come on, best time for eating. So I'm just going to go up a size. And then suddenly, oh, this pair of trousers, this other pair of trousers is too big. I've got to go down a size. Like, it didn't make me feel good that I had like a smaller number. It just made me really, really confused. And like I said, I know my body, I'm very comfortable in myself, I'm a confident person, so I wasn't affected. You know, I didn't think that there was anything better or worse with me. It was just that the trousers were wrong. And your body is yours. I think that's the point that I'm trying to make. You have your body, and the clothing dresses the body. And it's something that can be quite challenging, I think, but your body shouldn't have to conform to the clothing that you wear in daily life, because the numbers on the label are a very abstract descriptor, as I've just illustrated by this, in my opinion, quite large fluctuation in one shop. Yeah, and that's it's kind of ludicrous, really. Yeah, the label is just a description and doesn't necessarily bear any relation to the garment in question, what you're holding. And I kind of feel like if I had picked up everything in a shop and you know, it's like vanity sizing, and actually I ought to wear a smaller size, am I meant to feel good about myself? You know, is that meant to be better because I'm smaller? Because, you know, there's all this pressure that women are under in order to lose weight. And then am I meant to feel worse if I end up in a much bigger size? Like, why is that? You know, my body is mine. I'm relatively healthy. I don't have any disabilities. I'm really, really fortunate to be myself. So this is really what I wanted to bring across to the podcast. Just sharing that little anecdote and those thoughts. You know, it's just about developing your own sense of self-worth, I guess, and self-confidence in that, you know what's right, and you know that what is right is that you should wear clothing that doesn't feel like it's going to be cutting off your circulation, no matter what the number is on the label. And also kind of expanding on that and going back into craft and making, knitting, sewing and mending clothing. A pattern is just a starting point. You don't need any permission from anyone apart from yourself and me, that you can alter the pattern in any way you need in order to make it fit your body, in order to make it look good, so that you feel good wearing things that you've made. So just more general advocacy from me to take your crafts into your own hands, educate yourself about the mathematics of pattern cutting, the technicalities of fit, and your own body measurements, what you enjoy and find yourself comfortable in wearing, and just, take control over your knitting. Don't feel like you need to be dictated to by numbers or words in any form of pattern, because your body is yours and it's unique to you too. Okay, that's it. Let's leave it at that. Let's leave it on a high. I hope that you are all well, safe and happy, enjoying the start of the autumn. Please do stay in touch with me, leave me a comment, join in the Crimson Whip Along, sign up to my newsletter, and give this video a thumbs up below if you've enjoyed it. And finally, a welcome to all new subscribers, and a thank you for everybody who continues to check in with me here at the Crimson Stitchery. It is so great to have you with me every week. Take care, everyone. See you soon. Bye bye.